So this is about practical criticism. This is the definition. You can later on go through the definition. That's not important for this because practical criticism is more of an algorithm to criticize something or analyze something. I'll just get directly into analyzing a piece of work. The work that I'm going to analyze is known as Shelter. It's a music video by Porter Robinson and Marion, animated by Avon Pictures in collaboration with Crunchyroll. So it's a short film, it's a song, and it's animated. So before we move to actually analyzing it, let's go through the video first.
この先に何があるんだろう。いつからか考えなくなった。考え方。それすら忘れてしまったのかも。変わらない自分だけの世界が毎日が続いていく。でも寂しくはない。どうってことないんだ。 い出が悲しいことだったとしても信じて進んでいくんだ。寂しさを知ってしまってくじけそうになってもあなたのおかげで思い出して強くなれるんだ。一人じゃないってあなたのおかげで。ありがとう。
And well, that's the end of the video, although I will go back a little, find a scene with a letter somewhere around here, which is this specific letter. So we'll get back to this in a little bit. Let's get back to the paper, I guess. Yeah. So because this is a music video, this is also animated, it has a song. It also has a story. It has multiple aspects that can be criticized. So the things that we're going to criticize are the dialogues, that those are at the start and at the end of the video. We're also going to criticize the lyrics. We're also going to criticize the letter shown in the video that I just showed you, this specific letter. Now you would be wondering, this is in Japanese and how would you criticize it? So don't worry about it, it has been translated. And the visuals, of course, because it's an animation, we will be criticizing that as well. And maybe perhaps one more thing we'll see at the end. So there's a link to the video here, but you can just go to YouTube and search for Shelter and you'll find it. Anyway, so once you've decided what a piece of work is that we're going to criticize, we have to collect material that can be criticized. So first of all, the dialogue at the start of the video, the song itself that can be criticized, and then the letter, and then finally what's at the end, the dialogue again. So the algorithm for practical criticism is basically you have to list four things: the sense of the text or the work, intention of the creator, feeling of the reader or the one who's consuming the I guess text or poem or song or whatever, and then the tone that you think the text is written in. So when we talk about sense, we usually focus on paraphrasing the whole thing all over again. So things like, the song itself will be summarized and phrased again in a different way, in a way that you can understand it. A little bit of knowledge about pragmatic meaning is important, because a lot of times these don't usually mean what they say as is, so it's not semantic but rather pragmatic. So a little bit of knowledge of that is required. When talking about intention, it is important to understand the text after paraphrasing it, so that you can deduce the intention of the person who has created the work. So that's about intention. And then when we talk about feeling, it is important to know about literary devices and structure of various kinds of writings, for example, metaphors and similes and alliterations and repetitions and hyperbole and understatement and so on. This helps understand the text structurally, and it is also what the text makes you feel, the mood of the text. You have to write that as well. So also when talking about tone, it is once again important to understand what the text is talking about and how it is talking about the subject. More importantly, how it is talking about the subject. A tone can vary from text to text. It can be, I guess, melodramatic, could be preachy, could be dark, ironic, sarcastic, humorous, optimistic, pessimistic. Those are tones. So you can have like multiple modes in a text. Like, it's not necessary that the whole text is in a single mode, a single tone. It can have multiple modes of tone. So it can go from, like, it can start out like sarcastic, it can go into humor, it can be dark at some point, it can change. So anyway, it is just, for tone, it is important that you see the connotation of the word and the diction and the use of figurative language. So that's that. Mm, we are also, after all of these things that we're going to analyze, we also have scene because it's visual. So we have various keyframes like starting of the video and stuff. So we will analyze them one by one as we go through it. So hold on. We will first get into sense of things. And because we're talking about literature, we will start with sense of these dialogues and lyrics, these first two things. So the dialogue starts here. We'll go with lyrics first, though, because it's more of a I guess it's one unit that is together. Dialogue is divided into two different parts, like at the start, at the end. We could do letter, but let's just go with lyrics first. So I'm not gonna read out the lyrics; it's right here. I'm just gonna give you the sense of what it kind of feels like. Not feels like, it's just a sense. I mean, both of them are different. So the character seems to struggle to convey her feelings clearly enough and seems hesitant about telling the subject of her thought about her departure physically or mentally from the subject, like away from the subject. Which is why these lines exist. Like the first two lines, I could never find the right way to tell you. Have you noticed I've been gone? So that's what the narrator is trying to say, not the author. I mean, uh, this, by the way, is like all of this lyrics, the text is narrated in first person. So that will come up later on. And so she seems to have been physically absent from the proximity of the subject, and yet shows that she remembers it, which is shown again by these two lines. Can go through that. The character talks about the future in an optimistic manner. That's it. That's the one. And that she will carry on the legacy of the subject. So the subject that she is talking to or about has given her shelter, which is like a way to say guidance or some in some sense, and that she would do the same for people who come after her. So that's like an optimistic tone, and that's also a plan for the future in a sense. So anyway, the character again notes that even if the time passes, she may never find the right words to tell the subject. So, which is this specific part, like, being silent, like, uh, even if the time passes, which is when I'm older and I'll be silent beside you, I know words won't be enough. So that kind of explains, that kind of relates to the starting of the whole song, which is I could never find the right words. So the same thing all over again, just in a different sense, put in a different way. Okay, so this is also known as amplification, and which is like, you start something out, you say, you put your argument at some point, and then later on in the piece of work, you put the same point again in a different manner. So that is kind of an amplification. Anyway, so to the next thing. So the character again notes that even if time passes, she may never find the right words to tell the subject what she feels, but still she will keep him company. She also notes that even if the future does not know of them, which is and they won't need to know the names or our faces, they will still, the legacy will still be carried. So they will carry on for us. So whatever work they have started, it will be carried on. It doesn't matter if the older generations will be remembered or not. And then these two stanzas are repeated all over again in the same way. So that's the end of the sense for at least the lyrics. The next thing is the dialogue. The video starts with, okay, so first of all, the name of the character we find out at some point, which should be, where is it? Let me find that keyframe where you find out the name of the character. Here. So this is the keyframe where you find out the name of the character, which is Rin, Rin. At this point in the video, she is about 7 years old. So we will, that's relevant in a way as well. Because at some point you see certain days, so like 2578 days, that is 7 years exactly, and maybe a couple more days. So that is like 9 plus 7 just makes her 15 at the moment, which is like this person who is standing here is 15 years old. Well, she is about 7 years old in the memory. So anyway, that's why that's relevant. And why were we here? The keyframe. Yep. So the name of the person is Rin, and she starts the video with a dialogue. That's what will become of me from now on. So the whole dialogue is gives a sense that she is wondering about future and possibilities, noting that she has spent so long alone in the unchanging world that she doesn't feel alone anymore, and that she doesn't put much thought into it. At the end, after seeing her memories, Rin talks about how the memories are not a burden but rather a strength to her, and thanks to her father for them. Well, thanks her father for them. So that's that dialogue right there, the end of it, and the letter itself. So let's get to the letter. The letter reads this. I'm gonna read this once because the main letter is in Japanese and nobody can read it that way. So the letter is to Rin from Dad. There was far too little time left after you were born. I wonder how much love I was able to show after your mother passed. Seeing you cheerful and well gave your old man courage. It really would have been better if we could have gone together, but I couldn't make it work. I thought I wanted you to forget everything and go forward. Knowing you, you'll be okay. You'll realize your loneliness and surely remember me. I believe that he'll grow strong and read this letter. I wish we could have made more memories. I'm sorry when you were little, you probably didn't understand well, but now you should. I'll say the words from the day once more. And the letter has not ended here, basically. It's still loading at the bottom in this part of the video. So we do not know exactly what words they're talking about, but it's kind of implicit. It's not explicitly stated what he wants to say, but it's implicitly kind of understood. So the sense of the letter is basically the letter seems to be written for Rin from her father. First of all, it talks about how her mother has passed away soon after her birth, so he hopes that he has given her enough love. The letter shows some regret about the design of the space capsule, and that perhaps she could have had his company to look after her, but that wasn't possible. More regrets are being talked about, primarily of not being able to spend much time together. And since the letter was written when Rin was like 9 years old, her father repeats the same words he said to her so that she can now understand those words when she has grown older and more mature. So that's about it for the text itself, like from this part all the way to here. So next we'll go through scene by scene and see like what's going on. First of all, we figure out that we see Rin dreaming at the start of the video, underwater, basically thinking about her future, and it's like a huge body of water. She's looking upwards in the video at the start of it, but she soon wakes up, and then she finds out that like it's been you see the tablet with like 2539 days, which is a little less than 7 years, and you see that nobody has messaged her in that long. But soon you also, so that's the end of the dialogue, and then you have the title screen coming up, and then the music starts. But soon we realize that this specific room isn't actually real. It is all virtual, in the sense that you see this specific scene where everything starts to disassemble and starts to break through. And then you see the tablet, you see Ren using the tablet kind of to edit the surroundings around her. And you see that she has complete control over this virtual world that she's living in. So the scene changes, and we find out that she's living in a virtual world, and that she designs everything. She kind of like is editing a landscape, and she ends up making a big field where she's just running around. And so while she's like happy and everything during this time, she sits down enjoying the view. She sees a tree in the background where there's a swing, and then she starts wondering like if she made the tree in the tablet. She checks the tablet as well in this specific scene. Apparently didn't see it, so she goes towards it, touches the swing, and then there's a sequence of memory gets triggered from it. So that's that scene, and then she kind of doesn't remember what it's exactly about. So she's back into room, looking kind of sad and just trying to remember. The next scene is basically a new environment filled with water, like it's raining and there's bamboo trees around her, and it's a signifier. It's a good signifier of a lot of confusion, because rain and water is like a symbol in at least this specific culture for confusion and sadness and depression in a way. So the next scene we see is she's just sitting on like physically impossible objects. She's making them, which kind of intensifies again the fact that it's not a real world, it's a virtual world. The real world physics does not really bother her here. So it's kind of uh, like environments can be made that are physically not possible, and objects that are physically not possible to exist. I mean, they're physically not possible at all. So those kind of objects. We also see time passing quickly, and that is signified by the okay. That is signified basically by the clouds going in the background, like they speed up, and then you see everything dull down, colors fade away, burn away, and then the scene changes. That she's taking a bath, just wondering, with an expression of wonder, basically. And then again, we see her walking through a deadwood forest where everything is kind of more of a darker palette. The darker colors are used. It's a signifier of more bland and depressed feeling. So that's that. She's also sitting in a throne in there, which signifies, again, it's a symbol for um, like being in control of the surroundings. So she's in the throne, controls everything around her, kind of like a queen. So the scene again changes. A few days pass by, and it's like 7 years. And 2,578 days is like 7.01 years, I guess. So a few days after, 13 or 14 days after the seventh year has passed. So she's using the tablet, and suddenly it goes out of control on its own. Suddenly starts showing these drawings that she hasn't made. Because if you remember, at some point of the video, when she's using the tablet, it's kind of all weird, like kind of these kind of drawings, which are like polygons that are not sharp or anything. So not neat, basically. But if you see these drawings, they're like extremely neat, detailed, and things. So you kind of know that these are something that she hasn't made. It's just something, it's in the tablet and kind of loads on its own. So she finds herself in the middle of a home, and then she realizes that it's her own, childhood home. And then she gets thrown into a vortex of memories, and she remembers going through, a scene where like she's in a playground playing with her father and stuff. So that's and then there's the scene comes where there's the news of some kind of conditions in Tokyo, and you see a picture of her mother right next to the television with a white flower, which is um, chrysanthemum, I guess, which is a flower which is used in funerals. So that's a symbolism we'll get to later, but it's not included in sense. It's included in feel. So since we're talking about sense, so we'll continue with that. So she is in the next scene. Basically, we're just paraphrasing what we see in these scenes into like text to paraphrase it, and this will be written. So then she is shown sleeping while her father is um, working on something that we don't know exactly. We also see this small teddy bear here. You have to remember this is also a part of a scene where somewhere around here. There we go. So this teddy bear is over here in her virtual room. This is also here in this specific scene where it's in the memory. So then we see what exactly her father is working on. He's working on a spaceship, which can hold Rin. It's a single seater, it says over here. And the name is Rin, height is 110 centimeters, 19.8 kilograms, age 7. So that gives us a lot of information about the character. She then kind of watches herself looking at her self watching her father work, and then she gets pulled down further into the memories, and then she remembers like going to like celebrating, cooking, doing her hair, visiting a Shinto shrine for the New Year's, and things like that. There's also one very specific scene that we'll get to when we go back to feel. Currently we're doing sense, so we just have to retranscribe everything that we're seeing. So this part, like you see Rin watching herself walk away from the shrine, and then we see a satellite image from Mirai satellite camera where you see a cosmic object, and you finally realize what's happening in the video. There's a huge planet, that huge cosmic object which is about to crash into the planet, and which is why everybody is like, conditions, where did it go, these things, current conditions in Tokyo, kind of, those kind of headlines. So she's kind of playing obliviously, she's oblivious of what's happening, and he's kind of serious, like, what's going to happen, might as well make a spacecraft. And okay, that's just a bad joke. Anyway, so like Superman. Okay, another bad joke. So it seems, at this scene that, her father is letting her use the tablet to calibrate it to her way of use. And we see another image of the cosmic object. And then we quickly switch to a spaceship shot, like, spaceship is ready. And then we switch to the shot where she is sent out into the outer space. And then you are left with the scene with the father smiling, like, it's done. And then the memories end, because she has been falling into the vortex like forever now. She goes down, she sees the letter, and then she realizes what exactly he said during this time. Back then she did not understand it exactly, but now she does. And then the video ends with her in a spaceship out of nowhere in the middle of the space. So that is the basic sense of it, if anything. And a good, I guess, so when we're writing sense, we'll be writing about, it's just a retranscription of everything, a summary, shorter version, if anything. The dialogue even shorter. See, lyrics were a little longer than this. Like they were actually not that long, but they were like one whole page. This is like a half page. Dialogues were like a little longer than this, definitely. I know. They have been made shorter. You have to like summarize it. If you're writing sense, this is sense, you have to summarize it. The letter kind of is like, yeah, I've shortened that as well. You have to pick up the main points of it and summarize it. Now visuals is because it's this big, it starts from here, it covers all of this page and this as well, because it is a long, okay, so it is kind of a long thing. Like the video itself is like 6 minutes. You can't like make it any shorter than that, like 1.5 pages. I'm guessing that's about, how many words is that? That is 693 words. So about like a whole answer, if you're going to write that in exam. Sense itself in that video would fill up the answer sheet. But anyway, we'll get to intention now. Now, like I said, intention is more about what was intended by the author. So sense is just a paraphrasing, like rewriting the whole thing in different words in a summary. Intention is author's intention, what he's trying to tell you or she is trying to tell you. And then feeling is what the reader, we were talking about author before, now we're talking about the reader, what reader feels from reading or watching or seeing or whatever they're doing with the text from that. I hope they're just watching or reading anyway. So yeah, now we'll get to intention. So for the lyrics, it's basically, the author seems to intend to show optimism in situations that cannot be considered too good. So we have to like quote parts of text into this. So we can see hesitation by the use of could never find the right way. We see remembrance in the last line of first stanza, I will carry it along. So I will actually switch to that part so you can see it rather than looking at the notes, if you were to look at the notes, I mean, I'm going to send this to you anyway, so you can look at it anyway later. Um, so, hesitation, we were talking about hesitation. The first line, that's about hesitation. Um, there we go. So, I could never find the right way to tell you. That is hesitation. And then there is the remembrance, you know, because I've left behind the home that you made me, but I will carry it along. So if you have left behind the home, and home is like a whole huge object, you can't carry a home along with yourself, right? So basically it means that they're talking about the memories of home, so that's what they will carry around with them. So remembrance is the intention here in this line. And then we see optimism and pessimism, long way forward, but trust in me. So, and it's a long way forward, so trust in me. That's like optimism, like this is the pessimistic part, but this is the optimistic. Wait, I think that's it. Unless this whole the whole thing is optimistic. I mean, you're talking about long ways kind of sounds like, you know, a lot of things to be done. Pessimistic, but trust in me, so optimistic kind of thing, you know. So yeah, and then we have give them shelter like you've done for me. That's like thankfulness. So because like you've done for me, that's the thankful part, and I'll give them shelter. That's like I'll carry on the legacy for that. And there is maturity somewhere around. I know words won't be enough, so it kind of intends some maturity from the author. So the only reason we are doing like these three stanzas is because the last two stanzas are actually repeat of these two stanzas. That's why I end it here and not over here. So that's that. And then there's dialogue. So let's go with the first part of the dialogue. So the intention of the dialogue is very simple. The dialogue is divided into pre and post song, both of which intend to show two different mindsets. Before the song, the dialogue shows a lot of uncertainty in the mindset of the character. So, what will become of me from now on? That is uncertainty. And I have stopped thinking. So it's kind of like pessimistic as well. I have stopped thinking and it doesn't bother me. Indifference, I guess, not. They've stopped thinking and there is indifference there. And post song dialogue is kind of like, you know, while at the end it's like extremely accepting and hopeful in nature, and we see that the use of word like I've got to go forward and believe in future and thank you, like this, and got to go forward and believing in future. These things are like very optimistic and extremely accepting and hopeful of what it's going to be. So there's a buy mode. It changes from the mode changes from this to this, but we're not on mode, we're on intention right now. um so that's dialogue. And then we talk about letter. So letter seems to carry the intention of pretty much the fatherly love in this, and particularly because letter is unfinished and not seen in its complete form anywhere in the visuals, we can only assume that those words at the end, uh, what those words were, and it's implicit like I said before. But we also know something else about this, like use of words like courage, and where did it go, courage, and forward, and remember, and wish. Where's where? There we go. Just saw it. There we go. Wish. So these words are like more of like optimistic words. Some regret is shown in some places, but mostly hopeful. Letter is like good. You know, it's like um, filled with wishes, regards, and some regrets and love. That's what the intention of the letter is. And then we get back to visual when you're talking about intention. The intention of visuals is very clear with the use of more sharp, low polygon count objects. So if we go low polygon, where is it? These things, these boxes on trees, kind of weird. Like you don't have trees, you know, boxes growing out of trees. So it's kind of kind of like a signifier of a virtual world rather than an actual world. So that's that. It shows that the story exists in a virtual world from the start. The color palette used changes throughout the video, ranging from cold white, blue, gray palette to warm green, yellow, and red palette. So this is like the cold palette, and this is the warm palette. This is none of those. This is the warm palette. These are the warm palettes. There's the one with the field. The field one is the good example of warm palette. So this one is a good one for like warm colors, because there's yellows, greens, reds. So yeah, that. um these are like signifiers of sadness and depression, while these are like signifiers of happiness and stuff. So the next thing we talk about after the visuals, like the intention of the visuals, is that feeling. And the feeling again will go through lyrics, will go through dialogues, will go through the letter, and then the visual. So the lyrics, let me go back to the lyrics. So these the feeling of the song itself arises in the exploration of the unknown. We see words like left behind, long way, and shelter. So these things kind of signify that the author has left, the character, not the author, the person who's narrating, has left the comfort zone into the wild alone. It also raises the feelings of thankfulness towards the subject. So there is like the narrator, right? And then there's a subject. The subject is everywhere you see everywhere you see you. The narrator is talking about a subject. So until you're gone, and I am older. That's like the narrator, and then they are also a subject. Like, but we do not exactly know what that is. But primarily, we know from the video what I is and what you is. Basically, the narrator and the subject. So that's that. So we see other things like other words like not alone and watching over. So I'm not alone and you will be watching over us, that part. And until you're gone, so the last part as well. Really say it really just signifies a limit of time and more morbid aspects of the song. So you have to this is like a bit more morbid thing, part of the song. So also at times this kind of feels like that it's kind of trying to say a kind of a goodbye. So that's one feeling that arises from reading the lyrics. So basically when you're talking about feel, like third aspect of the whole criticism, you have to make sure that you read the whole thing, and then you try to find out what it makes you feel, and you write it down in that particular order. So feel, once you're done with like writing what it makes you feel, you move on to rhetoric devices. So we know that there are some rhymes used here. For example, me and me, there's like gone and along, which is what it's a syllabic rhyme, I think. No, it's a half rhyme. And then there's enough and us. So that is this one, me, and where's enough? Where did it go over us? So there we go. Enough and us, these two are actually syllabic rhymes. So we know that like some rhymes are used, and then there is like hyperphora. So have you noticed I've been gone? And that's the question, and then she instantly answer it as well. That's known as hyperphora. There is thesis, just stating of facts, I guess, in a way. They won't need to know our names or our faces, but they will carry on for us. So it's a thesis, like related sentences. This may cause this. So causation in kind of a way, it's a thesis. So, and there is consonants in use by repetition of the l sound in the word, like I'll, shelter, like, alone, you'll, and so on. So I'll give them shelter, like, and these words that start with L, they're really close by. So it counts as consonants if they're close enough. Metaphor is used, as in Shelter is a metaphor. This specific word, it doesn't mean actual shelter, it means guidance. And then there is another metaphor which is of figurative, watching over us, because we know it's kind of a farewell, like it's like he's not exactly present to watch, but it's a figure of speech. And then we move on to the letter. So certain words in the letter, like old man, which is a way of referring to one's father, so it's a figure of speech. Where did it go? Letter. That old man, so that's a figure of speech. There's not much in this. There is some thesis in it as well. So this specific one, I thought I wanted you to forget everything and go forward. Knowing you, you'll be okay. So that's a thesis. So you have to write these down, I guess. And then we move on to the video. The video's feel is kind of different. It's filled with symbolism. So the first symbolism we see is that picture. Where did it go? There we go. This one is filled with symbolism. This chrysanthemum flower is used in funerals, so that is kind of a symbol for death in this specific scene. And then Rin falling through the vortex of memories is also a symbol of kind of being pulled into the memory lane. And then there is like physically impossible objects that I was talking about before. So these things and this thing are all physically impossible things to exist, so kind of like a symbolism of virtual things. And then there is a symbolism in this picture as well. She is glowing, which means she is not particularly present in this form, in this specific scene, so she's kind of out of the place. It's a symbolism. There is a very specific scene as well that we will go through. This specific scene, there's another symbolism in that, so we'll have to go through this part. So if you look at her, I'm gonna mute this, so pay attention to her mouth. So she tries to say something. It's a 3-syllable word basically, and there is no voiceover in that. It's just song. You can't hear what she's saying. That is also a kind of a symbol, a 3-syllable word, which could be like a Japanese word matete, which means to wait, or otosan, which means father. So she could just be like wait, or just calling out to her father in that sense. So we do not know exactly what she's saying, but you can kind of lip read and say like it's a 3-syllable word. It's not perfect lip animation, so we can't really tell exactly what it is, but that's what we know from it. So far we have done sense. That was the first point. In the sense, we did like paraphrasing, rephrasing the whole thing, retranscribing, summarizing it. Then we did intention, what the author was trying to tell us. And then we did the feeling that we just finished, like what kind of feelings it brings up, and what kind of rhetorical devices were used. So symbolism, metaphors, and those things. And finally we come down to lyrics, sorry, the tone. So the tone of so we'll start with the lyrics again. So the tone of the lyrics basically are mostly optimistic. It's not like sad. It's not like it says something and then it's like sad about it. It's more like it says something bad and then be positive about it. So and I know I'm not alone. You'll be watching over us. So the narrator basically knows that she's alone, but she also knows that she is being watched. So that's kind of like an optimistic tone, even though there's like it's being pointed out that it's not particularly a happy thing. So those kind of things. And other things like positive with positive connotations are like watching will carry on. Where did it go? This one will carry on for us, so kind of like positive, like even if they do not know who we are, they will carry on what we start, kind of thing. So but there are more pessimistic words that do exist in here. So never, long way, older, and gone, they have a negative connotation with them. So gone and then long way. these words. What happened there? Okay, there we go. So that, and then we move on to dialogue. The tone of the dialogue is bimodal in nature. The tone starts with hopelessness and indifference. So basically, where did it go? So basically, we have like words that are more hopeless, in the sense like stop thinking, forgot, continues on, and lonely. So forgot, continues on, and lonely. These are like negative words. It shows that this whole part is kind of like negative. But when we move on to the end of the dialogue, it's kind of more like, uh, you know, to go forward, believing in future, and stronger, and thank you. Those are like more positive. So this, the end of the dialogue is more positive. It's bimodal. Like the mode in here is negative, the mode here is positive in a contrast. Then we move on to the letter. The tone used in the letter are like mostly best wishes, regret, and love. So we see the best wishes with the help of the words like "you'll be okay" and "you will surely remember me." Well, regret is shown by parts like "I couldn't make it work." So this one, regret, and "you will surely remember me." So this one. So it's like a little bit of okay. So and then it's not explicitly stated, excluded from the letter, but implicitly there's like more a tone of love in the whole letter. So that. And then finally, visuals rather than tones. The visuals are filled with mood because colors, like the cold colors, hot colors, I mean warm colors, black, pretty much cold, warm. This is also warm. This is warm, warm, warm. Everything is almost warm until you get here. You have like green and grayish colors here in the pool and the pond and the rain. So that's kind of like cold colors. These are all cold colors. So whenever there's like a palette of cold colors, it's all depressing and sad. When there's warm colors, it's all good and happy. So in that sense, I guess that's the kind of tone there is. So that's the like those are the four things that we do for practical criticism, and that's about it. But I do have one more thing, and that is the bonus chapter, music. So because the analysis of music is much different compared to everything else, I'm not even sure who would be interested in this, but I'm not sure if anybody can read like sheet music either, notes and stuff. But basically, there are things like how it ends, how it starts. The intro of the song consists of four chords. Basically, the whole song is in C major, which has the properties of being innocent, youthful, childlike, and playful. Part of the reason why the song is like bubbly, kind of, and even though it's like mellow, the first like is like 651 scale degree, which is it's just like 651, 652, sixth scale, fifth scale, first scale, sixth scale, fifth scale, second scale in C major, all in C major. So 651, 652, 351, 651, kind of. It's all it, and then it kind of ends in a 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 triple three note, triple rhythm and three note. The melody itself is this is the melody, by the way. That's the melody of it, and it's kind of sticky because it's a basic pattern in C major and easy to sing along with. That's why like it's a little bit catchy. I guess sticky would be the wrong word. Catchy would be the right word. The chord progression is different as well for I guess um, I mean the chord progression is basically just 4 1 5 1 6 2 in C major as well, and instead of like the thing is though, like it goes from, you would think like because it's in a proper order, it would usually go like 4 5 4 1 5 1 6 1, but it goes 4 1 5 1 6 2. The chord progression differs there in the C major a little bit. It's unusual. It's known as inversion, and it has been inverted. So most of these chords are like inverted at some um, So what else? So talking about the bass, the chords are accompanying the the pattern the chords are following is pretty much um, F major, C major, G major, C major, A minor, D minor, kind of. Well, anyway, the more important part is that whenever a piece of music is in major, I guess any kind of major chord, it's more of a happy song. If it's in a minor, it's more of a sad song. So that's also anyway. So sometimes musicians, use inverted C major as well for most of the starting bass. These bass chords are accompanying, like I was saying, it accompanies a pattern of F major, C major, G major, C major, A minor, D minor, which is basically what's like um 4-1-5-1-6-2 in the C major chord. So when chords like it's a simple like C major chord is a simple chord. You go straight on the I guess if you're looking into a keyboard, like all the white keys from C1 or C3, I guess. The song uses C3 anyway. So when the chords are too simple, sometimes it needs to be made richer using inversion, and it works really well, which is exactly what we see in this music. Another way to make simple chords sound better is extension, since any scale can be in a chord and all the notes in a scale can be in a chord. For example, F major, we keep adding a note that is a third away from the first note and extend the note. So, for example, like C major 7, add 9, which is also E minor 7. So, instead of three keys, you have an extended like fourth key with it. So, that is one way to like make the sound a little richer. If not, just the inversion. Inversion kind of does make it a little better. Also, the bass starts in a higher octave when it's going through the first time, but later on, from the second run on the bass, it's pretty much in the lower octave, which allows for more instruments to be played together with it to increase the richness of the song as well. So that's one thing. Um, Also, the rest of the song has like six chords which run throughout the song. Only thing that changes are instrumentation, like multiple sounds and instruments doing the same thing over the same chords. The melody and the behavior of this part changes, while there's also a second chord progression in the song. Not mentioning that in this specific, I guess, criticism, but well, just mentioning it anyway. So the behavior changes basically from smooth and long to short and choppy in the same progression. And also the melody in the second part kind of follows successive notes mostly, which is called as jump and run, like jumps and runs. So it kind of goes from like 1 to 5. So it goes 1, 5, and then goes 4, 3, 2, 1. So kind of like it's in a succession. The keys are right next to each other if you're looking at a keyboard. So and then it kind of like it's followed by like 2, 2, 1, 2, and 2, and then followed by another successive run of like 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1. All of these keys are like next to each other. They're all successive. So wherever the notes are successive like that, they're easier to understand and follow, and anyone can sing along, which is why it's again stickier in nature, like catchy. So if you're looking into like criticism of music, the same four things don't apply because music does not have sense in itself. It does have intention, and the intention of this music is basically if you listen to it, you feel a little bit, I guess. The first intention is when you listen to the music is that there's some auto tuning going on at the start, which kind of shows a little bit of robotic machine kind of thing, which kind of signifies, I guess, adds on to the whole virtual world feel of it. And then there is, what else is there? So sense, there's no sense, there is intention, there is feel. So feel you can't really tell because I mean, I just said there were some of the devices used like jump and run, and then there's like inversion. So those kind of those are not devices per se, they're just techniques that are used by musicians. So you can use that in feel. And then there is the tone. The tone of the whole tone of the song, it's in C major. So again, it's supposed to be a happy song. It's an easy song, happy song. It's not supposed to be hard to play or sing along. So yeah, I guess that's the end of my practical criticism. And well, I'll end the video here.